שלום לכולם, ברוכים הבאים לפסטיבל הקולנוע רוחני, ספיריט. שמחים מאוד לארח כאן היום לשיחה את סוזן קרוקר. סוזן היא יוצרת הסרט קודם אוכלים, וגם יוצרת הסרט כל הזמן שבעולם, שהקרנו אותו בפסטיבל הקולנוע הרוחני, אם אני לא טועה זה היה 2016, אולי אפילו קצת לפני, והוא אחד הסרטים האהובים על צופי הקולנוע הרוחני מזה המון שנים. אז אני מאוד שמחה לארח כאן לשיחה את סוזן. Welcome Susan. Really pleasure to have you here in Spirit Film Festival with your amazing film, First We Eat. And congratulations, because I know you already won a few awards on this film. By the time we watched it, I think it was maybe February or March, or it was just after Hot Dog. When you got the audience award over there, and we love your film, and we love this film, and we love the other film that we screened in our film festival all the time of the world. And I think like maybe it was 2015, or right? We still have people requesting to watch this film, and it's like very memorable in us, and so we choose to screen it again in this version of online festival.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a treat to be with you in Israel, all the way from the Yukon in northern Canada.
Yeah, I wish that you could really be here in Tel Aviv. Yeah, it's very strange to make a film festival like this and not to see the audience, and usually it's like thousands of people in Tel Aviv, and we get to meet so many people and sit in the theater and watch the films on the big screen and all that. But we're happy and feel blessed that at least we can still give this kind of content to our people, that many of them sit at home most of the day because of the pandemic, and they're really thirsty to receive this kind of quality content, call it. So thank you for being here, and maybe tell us a little bit where you are. Where is Yukon? Because we are here in Israel, it looks like a different planet for us.
Yes, well, if I look out my window right now, it looks like a Christmas card. There's the snow everywhere. All the trees are covered with snow. It's about minus 25 Celsius today.
Really? Already?
Yes,
wow.
We're in winter, and the river, the ferry has been pulled. There's lots of ice in the river, so people are waiting for the river to be able to freeze to be able to cross again. But yes, so I'm in Dawson City in the Yukon in northern Canada, same place as First We Eat was shot, same little town. We're around 64 degrees north and just 300 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. So yeah, it's not winter all year round, but certainly for most of the year.
Wow.
And right now, definitely.
Yeah, we don't see here in Israel a lot of snow. Rarely that it snows here. Amazing. So maybe we will start by talking about this film, First We Eat, and for the audience that didn't see this film yet, and they watching this conversation, maybe you can describe in your own words, a little bit about the film.
Sure. Well, I had this interesting idea to take every bit of grocery store food out of our house for a year to see if this far north we could still, in this decade, eat 100% local to our community. So only food that could be grown, raised, foraged, hunted, fished, gathered around Dawson all year round. And I'm part of a family of 5 with 3 teenage kids, and my family was not so keen about my idea, but I convinced them to, I conscripted them, I guess, to join. And yeah, and First We Eat is the result of what happened over that year.
Why to eat? Sorry. Why to eat local?
Well, I mean, I do think I do have a tendency towards trying to be more sustainable and more self-sufficient. And also because like the food chain is so long. I mean, I think certainly here in North America, the pandemic has demonstrated that to us in spades, all the vulnerabilities when you are dependent on a long food chain. And up north where I live, we're so remote that 97% of our food comes from thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers away. So and there's a lot of implications to that. There's the carbon footprint implication. There's not being connected to how your food is produced and where it comes from. And there's also a nutrition part to that, especially when it comes to fresh produce. Something like 50 to 70% of the nutrients and vitamins in fresh greens are lost within 5 days of picking. So, I just thought, wow, like what kind of nutrition is left if I buy fresh spinach or lettuce in my grocery store way up here? That's probably been who knows how long since it was picked.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we've had a few circumstances where our supply chain's been cut off when the road's been closed. And it's incredible how quickly that food disappears from the grocery store. Like it feels like the grocery store is this endless supply of food, but really it's only a few days of food and then it needs to be restocked. And so for all of those reasons, and then also realizing that, of course, thousands of years ago, Indigenous folks who lived in this part of Canada ate 100% locally from the land. And even a little more than 100 years ago, my community used to produce closer to 97% of its own food. And now it's just over time done a complete switch, and we become more and more dependent on processed food, more and more dependent on foods from far away. And in doing so, besides the implications that I just mentioned, we also become more and more disconnected from the land and from the people that actually do produce the food, and from the land that provides. So all those reasons factored into why I wanted to do this. And of course, I wanted to do it for a full year because, I mean, it's easier during the growing season to eat local. But to me, it was important to see how we could sustain ourselves in this community all year long if we weren't dependent on food from afar.
So first, there was an idea that you want to try to eat local food. And then the idea about filming it all came together, or is it was like, okay, let's try and then make a film about it, or
yeah, first the idea for sure. For me, it's always first the idea. Same with All the Time in the World. Especially with All the Time in the World, there was no thought of making a film about it until not too long before we went into the bush for that year. But I love film as a way of sharing story and a way of storytelling. And I think it's a really effective way to share beyond my own immediate circle of people. So so I did want to film this as well, and in order to share it just beyond Dawson, beyond the Yukon. So that's the reason for filming it. But yeah, it's always the idea first, and deciding to film it is secondary.
This is brilliant, and you do it so well. So I'm really curious about the way, because you capture your family and also yourself in such a vulnerable and also raw and authentic and funny moments. So I'm just curious. You're there with your camera all the time. You have like another person that is filming you, or how is that?
No, no, like 99% of the time it's me doing the filming, especially in the home. That's all me doing the filming. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. I mean, it's not so tricky to film my family, but what's really tricky is to film myself, because you can't be behind the camera and in front of the camera at the same time, of course. So even just technically to frame shots, it makes it difficult. I have to really look at the background of a shot, and then I often have to do a test shot to go where I think I'm going to be, turn the camera on, and then go back and look and see, am I actually in the frame at all? So yeah, so that is definitely something that's tricky. But you know, the advantage of not having an external crew in your house is that everybody is just naturally who they are. And I noticed this from the last film as well, that people in my family can start to kind of forget that the camera is even there. And that just allows the capturing of some really real and authentic moments, which I think is so important. And also, you know, when you're doing the filming yourself, especially filming your own family and your own story, I mean, you're always there. So it's not the situation where, okay, the crew's coming in for this week, you know, every 3 months, and what we shoot is what happens during that week. Like, you're always there. So if something comes up and it's good to shoot, then you shoot it. But yeah, there were for this film, there were a couple of cameras and a few tripods, basically part of the furniture for an entire year.
Okay. Yeah, because what comes to my mind is this scene that you're drinking your last tea before you start the whole experiment, and just, you know, it is so authentic and so raw, and I was like wondering what you were planning it ahead and sitting like this in front of the camera. How does it happen there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously had the camera on, knew I had the camera on. I had two cameras, one on me and one on Gerard. And I knew this was going to be my last tea. Which is why I turned the camera on, but I had no idea how I was actually going to react to that when it came time to actually taking that last sip. So yeah, it's just, again, one of those moments where it's authentic. And there was also you know, what we called the confessionals. So the times when the camera was set up and we were by ourselves and we were just talking to the camera and there was nobody else in the room. So when my family was doing those confessionals, I wasn't there behind the camera. I would just have the camera set up, turn it on, and I would go away and they'd tell me when they were done. And in fact, I didn't even listen or watch that footage until the end of the year, and it was time to edit. So they were sort of free to say whatever they wanted at the time, kind of like I guess a personal video diary of the moment. So I think not having me in the room, not having me behind the camera, they just could say whatever they wanted. And And they did.
It's amazing, brilliant. Yes. You even didn't check, I have enough footage. They say, what did they say? They need to reshoot it or amazing. No,
Yeah,
this is,
I thought it was important for them to be able to speak freely at the time, not knowing it was going to be monitored by their mother right after. So yeah, so it wasn't until the very end that I looked at that footage.
yeah. So let's speak a little bit about the challenges with the kids and taking the whole family, basically, also your husband, into this journey of not eating processed food, let's call it, for a year. It was not easy. We could see it in the film.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I mean I did broach it quite early on. I mean, obviously in the film it all kind of flows as one thing, but it was when I asked them when I told them my plan, that I was going to do this, and asked them if they would join me. It was the September before the summer I was going to start. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this and I want them to join me. And I'll explain all the reasons why I think it would be great for them to do it too, but I'm not going to force them to join. So that's sort of how it began.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized I realized that it would be much more difficult for me to do it if everybody in the house was eating whatever they wanted, because I would be incredibly tempted. And also it would mean, making, I don't know, 2 meals for everything. So it just seemed like it would be so much easier if the house could just be grocery store free. So my next task, I guess, was to convince my husband to come on board, and he's not really that easily convinced. So yeah, I think in the end it might have been more just the intrigue of it that got him to say he would not bring any grocery store food in the house, more than all the logical reasons I had for it. I also thought I could win my family over because this particular project was going to have me in the kitchen cooking for them all day long, which wasn't the norm in our family. And so I thought, of course they're going to join, because like, how wonderful to just have somebody cooking for them 3 meals a day and all snacks. But they weren't won over through their stomachs as easily as I expected. Anyway, when my husband Gerard agreed no grocery store food in the house, then that was a turning point for me, because my kids don't do the grocery shopping. And so I knew the path of least resistance once he was on board was that, okay, we could do this, take all the grocery store food out, and the kids would just kind of go along with it, which basically is kind of what happened. Although go along with it is probably too generous to say, but they didn't go grocery shopping. They agreed not to bring that food in the house.
Great, and you learn so much through this whole year. I mean, even practically know how to prepare salt and to take kind of water. What did you take from the trees?
The birch
Yeah,
water. Yeah,
yeah,
the birch sap.
yeah.
Yeah.
And preparing the meat and hunting and wow, and
Yeah.
making the yogurt or the butter.
Butter.
I
Yeah.
have this in my mind that you are sitting there and the whole family is shaking the jar with the milk.
Yeah, trying to turn the cream into butter. Yes. And yeah, so many things, like making everything from scratch. And I didn't go into this as a cook. I wasn't really a very good cook. I didn't enjoy cooking. I wasn't a great gardener. I didn't know how to forage. So I really went in as a blank page. And so my learning curve was incredibly steep. And but I learned so much, and there was so much. One of the things I learned was just how much knowledge is in my community, and people in my community knew what I was up to. So they would share their knowledge with me, which was so great. And it just made me realize how we all have a lot of knowledge holders in our community, and what an important resource that is, and how important to value that and tap into that. Because again, in times like this, in times of a pandemic, when we can't really count so much on the world outside of our own community, we really turn to what our community can offer, and that's so precious and so valuable.
Now, this is really precious, the part of the film that we see how the community is coming together and supporting your family, for what they can to provide you food-wise. It is really, really precious and amazing. And I wonder if you still growing your own food, or storing and eating mainly locally right now, or?
Yes. I still, for me personally, I probably still eat 90 to 95% local to my community. I have not had any caffeine for 3 years now.
So no tea, no
tea
bags.
No, just herbal tea that's local, that's foraged or locally grown. The one thing that has come back into my life, which I guess does technically have a tiny bit of caffeine in it, is chocolate. But I haven't had a banana in 3 years, for example. So every fall, I still stock our house with a year's worth of food. So we currently have 4 freezers full of food, 5 actually, I guess. And
the winter right now.
And I did canning again. So we have all those preserved foods in the pantry. Gerard was moose hunting again. It was another difficult year to get a moose. I think he was out maybe 4 times, and just a week before the ice formed on the river, he was successful. So we have moose again in our freezer. So yeah, all of our meat, all of our produce year round, all of our dairy products, all of our eggs, all of our berries are all still local to this community. What we don't have this year is fish, because the chum salmon stock, just for unknown reasons, just plummeted this year. So nobody's allowed fish. So so we will be missing fish this year, but hopefully that will recover.
But you eat, like, example, rice or flour, or?
Yeah, I mean, there is, so my family, I'd say, is probably eating 70 to 75% local still. So they've brought back in for them peanut butter, bagels, Cheerios. And so we do have some flour in the house now. We do have some pasta and rice, although it's not cooked very often, I would say, not like it used to be. But yeah, a few of those things are back: oil and vinegar, salt for the rest of my family.
I want to take you back to All the Time in the World. It's like you filmed it 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
10 years ago.
10 years ago? Okay.
Oh yeah, when it was actually filmed. Yeah, the kids were 10, 8, and 4.
Okay.
Now of course they're older than they were in First We Eat too. So now they're 20, 18, and 14.
Amazing. And I just find it really relevant, this film, because people found themselves this year in one space. So the kids are not going to school. It was not planned. It was not like you had the dream like that, to take the family to isolate yourself in exotic place and just be together and live this kind of simplicity. But here, many people found themselves um, in the home with the kids, not being able to go outside so much because, in the cities, it's really a difficult situation. And watching this film, I felt like there was such a harmony in your family, and you found the balance between you and the parents and the kids and the flow of the day without school, without really, doing curriculum stuff. And I just thought maybe you can share a little bit how to, you know, how you created that, or maybe people can take some insight into their life from this.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about that experience in this context now, and I agree. It's has continues to have a whole new relevance because of the situation we've all found ourselves in. I think maybe people can relate to how it felt from the earlier part of the pandemic when things were quite shut down and people weren't necessarily having to or couldn't work from home yet, and it was just that I guess that time when there's fewer distractions, and you're allowed to be bored, because your day isn't full of other things, and just what happens when people are allowed to be bored, especially kids are allowed to be bored, the creativity and the imagination that can flourish from that. I think that was super special and all the time in the world. Of course, in the pandemic situation, it becomes more difficult when people are at home with their kids and also having to work, especially if like two parents having to work full time at home and kids trying to do school at home. And it's not quite the idyllic situation we had in all the time in the world, for sure. But I do think, it does allow us to think about what the true priorities in our lives are again, and to try and keep them front and center. And I think that time together, parents and kids with parents as a family, is one of the silver linings of the pandemic. Just to have that ability to really spend time together, which is really so precious when you look at our whole life cycle. Like, I think at the end of my life, it's not a report I wrote or how much work I did that I will be grateful for. It's the time that I spent with the people that I care about most. So there's so many not good things about this pandemic, but I think maybe one of the silver linings is just having that opportunity to spend more time with the people we care about.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm just like, I was moving through the questions here. I think we mostly answered everything. There is one question that maybe we didn't. You were a doctor before, so when did you start making films, and when this switch happened in your life?
Yeah, I didn't do a usual training to become a filmmaker. Going to medical school is not the usual path to becoming a filmmaker. So I retired from medicine in the end of 2008. We went into the bush to make all the time in the world in 2010. And I really retired from medicine to spend more time with my kids. But what was happening around the same time is when Sam, my eldest, was 5, he started making some stop motion animations. And I was helping him figure out how to do that because he was only 5. And I started to find it quite fun. And so I started to make some stop motion animations as well. And next thing you knew, I was bit by the film bug, and I started to make short films in a whole different number of categories.
Mm.
And I think by the time we went into the bush, I had made 10 short films. And so when we went into the bush for that year, and there was this curiosity from people down south about what this was going to look like to spend a winter in the bush with 3 young kids, I thought I should document it. And because I'd been making short films, I thought I'll document it with the camera rather than writing about it. And so I did. And then All the Time in the World is the result of that. And then that just kind of got me on this new career. So it was kind of pretty organic, actually, and inspired by my kids. Like my kids all had short films in film festivals and had won awards for their films before I ever did. And all 3 of them have made short films.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah, they are the best teachers, I think, for us. We stay open to receive from them their ideas, and we learn so much. We see.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
you're on a new career. So I'm now curious, what will be your next experiment?
Yeah, my family is really curious about that too. And I don't know. I mean, I still feel quite passionately about creating strong local food ecosystems, and I still have, I think, some more experimenting I want to do in this regard, and some more advocacy I want to do in this regard. So I think that will I hope this will continue on for another couple of years, and then we'll see what comes next. Although you know, I don't necessarily, I won't have my family at my fingertips quite so easily. Both Sam and Kate are now in university, so they both left home. I don't think Tess wants to be singled out in the next film. So, but I think that that my husband Gerard is so naturally entertaining that I could probably just follow him around with a camera on a day-to-day point of view, and everybody would be very entertained. So who knows? Maybe the next will be a comedy series featuring Gerard. We'll have to see. I did suggest to Kate, she went off to university this year, despite the pandemic. And I did suggest that, a really interesting film documentary would be to follow a first-year university student going to school during a pandemic. But yeah, she didn't buy that. So I wasn't allowed to go with her and move into her dorm. So yes, I don't know. We'll see. Again, to me, it's more, I get a passion for an idea, and then the decision to film it is the next part. So we'll see what strikes me next.
What will be the next inspiration?
Yeah.
So the last question will be about the message that you want the audience to take from the film. Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, I think fundamentally what I hope this film will do is just inspire people to think about where their food comes from, and maybe when they're shopping, check the label on the food and see how far it's traveled. Think about the implications of that, and maybe think about an alternative that has come from closer to home. And the next step, I guess, would be to think, if people are inspired to, especially, again, I think the pandemic makes us all so much more aware of the importance of what's closer to home. And for me, in this pandemic, it just really highlights that the staples in life need to come from our own communities. So in time of crisis, we're still okay, and everything else is bonus. So I guess the other thing that I hope people might do is just to look around their own communities and see where they can source and how to source more local food, support the people that are producing it, and that will make a stronger local food ecosystem. And the next crisis will be all better off.
Yeah, definitely. It will strengthen the economy of the town and much more healthier. So there are so many reasons to do that.
Yeah, there's so many benefits. And I mean, the other thing I guess that goes along with that is thinking about eating seasonally again. You know, and not necessarily, I mean, I can speak for Israel because I suspect you have the ability to get so many things all year round, but certainly.
But there is seasons for the fruits and vegetables, definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, I have really learned to love eating seasonally, and sure, it means that for a period of time, I choose not to have things like, for me, you know, lettuce, broccoli, those things that I can only get in the summer, fresh tomatoes. But when they are available, they're just so much more delicious. They're so much more nutritious. And yeah, so I find I really look forward to their return. And we're all so much more adaptable than we think we are. Yeah. So, you know, not, you know, going a year without, going a month without, going a season without isn't such a big deal.
And you found so many alternatives, to nourish your body. So
yeah,
the nature provide you whatever you need.
Yeah. How does that saying go? Necessity is the mother of invention, something like that. And yeah, invention and creativity.
Thank you so much, Susan, for being here with us in Spirit Film Festival. And it's really an honor and pleasure to have your film with us. Such an inspiration it's bring us all. So we're really, really grateful for that. And for all the people that didn't watch the film yet, please go to our website, Spirit Film Festival. You will find all the links to both of the films, First We Eat and All the Time in the World, and watch them because they are my favorite.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for inviting both films and supporting both films. And it's just so cool to be, you know, I mean, moments like this also is just a good reminder that we're all on this planet together, and it's a global community. And whether we're in snow-clad Yukon or in Israel, you know, we're all in it together. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. And yeah, we really looking forward to connect more and see more of your films soon. And many blessings from us.
Thank
I will
you.
just speak in Hebrew for a moment for our audience. תודה רבה לכל מי שהיה פה. אני מזמינה את כולכם לצפות בשני הסרטים, קודם אוכלים וכל הזמן שבעולם. תמצאו אותם באתר שלנו, ספיריט פילם פסטיבל, .co.il, ובאתר סינמטק תל אביב, cinema.co.il. הסרטים זמינים לצפייה עד 7 בנובמבר. ותודה לכולכם. Thank you so much. Goodbye.